Alright, so what's up, people? So today, I got a story I'm going to go over today. This happened in Dallas, Texas. 21-year-old Marlon Lawrence unalived his manager, BJ Brightman of Dallas, Texas. So, as the news reports about the incident, so I got a little bit of insider information on what was going on. So, about during the week before the incident, Mr. Marlon Lawrence here, excuse me, he assumed that his boss wasn't paying him the right amount that he should pay him because when you work at a business like that, a small tire shop, sometimes it's under the table, or sometimes basically they write you checks, right? So that Friday evening, he went and talked to him and asked him, hey, I still haven't got my money yet. When I'm gonna get my money? I have rent coming up, and et cetera, and all that. So, BJ told him that, hey, okay, Monday I'll have you paid. So that Monday, following this Monday, BJ walked into the store, walked into the shop, upset. And so I guess, he assumed that he wasn't getting paid because he asked, BJ, hey, where's my money? I need my money. So as BJ went behind the counter, he shot his manager twice. He shot him once in the back and once to the back of the head. And then he fled, and later on he was apprehended by Dallas Police Department. So as I'm gonna get into this, we've all had all of our issues at work before, but killing your manager wouldn't solve anything because now he's gonna have to spend the rest of his life in prison because pretty much that was an overkill back, and then you shoot him in the head. But so my understanding is they were also having issues at work. And so as I always said, if it's that serious, if it gets that bad, man, just learn to walk off from your job, And another thing, being a manager, you can't always play with your workers' money because you don't know what kind of coworker that you're dealing with. This thing happen all the time, just like the incident over in Michigan when the McDonald's, what's her name, Afeni Muhammad, when she stabbed her boss to death over getting terminated, right? And so those things right there won't solve anything. But I'm not saying that these people was right, but as a manager, you have to be careful when you playing with people's money because you don't know what people going through. And as for Marlon, I felt like the situation could have been handled a different type of way. I feel like, he had people in his ear. Come on, because, he's 21 years old. Being 21, you still wet behind the ears. Anybody can encourage you to do something violent, because you have something to prove at that age. And this was one of those factors, Now, I'm not taking anybody's side here, but it looks like, Marlon was giving him time. Hey, I need my money. I'm serious about my money. And, being a 21-year-old this time of day, this time, this age, this generation, you're on a lot of demon time. So killing somebody, crashing out is the answer. You can't get these, this generation to understand it's not the answer. But as I, collaborate on this situation, I really hate that, two people lost their lives in a senseless incident like this. But, I've been a manager too, and I always made sure that my people was taken care of first, because at the end of the day, I need my workers. Because if my workers not doing the job, then I have to answer to the higher ups, what's going on. And so this all happened because the news is not putting it out there, what really happened. I have insider information because I have actually friends that know these people, and it's just a sad situation. It could have been handled on both sides. He could have, paid him his money and, he could have went his way, but instead, they both chose the hard way to deal with each other. And supposedly, I guess, there was some under the table things going on at the job. And as you meet, if I have to, I would never work for someone's business because these kind of things happen all the time. Someone always gets screwed over. Y'all heard if two people go into business, somebody ends up unhappy at the end of the day, especially when the paychecks come because somebody felt that they were shorting, right? And so we gotta use our head. When we start working for people, we gotta look and see what type of person we working for. If they gotta pretty much sneak and write a check, like when I mean sneak and write a check, when they have to send it to me under the table and I don't see any taxes coming out, then I'm pretty much not gonna take their job. Because I have friends that dealt with shady business owners like that, and it always end ugly. So in my case, it's just sad to say this, but please, whatever y'all do, it's not always good to work for a business, especially a business that that does corrupt things under the table. And this right here, I'm not saying they were doing something shady, but from what I've heard, it looked like they were. And he was just Marlon Thompson was pretty much trying to get, the easy buck. And this is what happens, when you dealing with, like I said, when you dealing with under the table businesses, rage, emotions get involved because, the manager and the worker, both of them try to outdo each other, and this is what happens, This was a sad way to end it, but let me know in the comments how y'all feel about this situation.